The COYGIG Pod
on Off the Ball
in association with Cadbury, official snack partner of the Republic of Ireland women's national team.
Katie McCabe, a huge goal.
I'm very proud of the team's performance.
We're going to go out there to beat them. We're going to try and beat them.
Hello and welcome to the COYGIG podcast. We are back in business after a very short break. I think we probably got less time than a lot of the international players did after the World Cup. So we are feeling equally as unrefreshed as everyone else, but we are delighted to be back with you guys. So much has happened in the short time that we have been away, from Vera Powell going, we have Eileen Gleeson as interim manager. Our very own Emma Byrne has abandoned us and joined the Irish setup, although she insists that it's only for a couple of weeks. So hopefully we will have her back for the start of the WSL season. And we got nominated for Best Sports Podcast at the Irish Podcast Awards, which is like a big woo moment for us. So once again, thank you everyone who listens to the podcast and supports us, because obviously we wouldn't get to do these fancy nice evenings and have a little bit of fun if it wasn't for you. So we really do appreciate it. But thankfully we still have one loyal member of the podcast. So I am joined today to look ahead to Ireland, the Republic of Ireland versus Northern Ireland tomorrow at the Aviva, a historic day, alongside Karen Duggan. Karen, how are we feeling? It's quite early in the morning. We're adjusting to this.
I was promised no more 7 a.m. recordings. And
we were all promised.
How you repay my loyalty. God, I could have been asked to go in and be water girl. You don't know. But I chose to be here.
Well, funny enough, this was brought up by Eileen Gleeson when I was chatting to her during the week, and she was saying, oh, I stole one of your podcast hosts, and I was like, yeah, just don't go taking the other one, Emma. And I made the water girl joke that Emma had, and she was like, oh, no, we want Karen in as a player. So you never know, you could be getting that phone call ahead of tomorrow.
About Eileen Gleeson, but she is funny.
She is very funny.
Very funny.
Yeah.
A good interview. She's really, really funny.
Yeah, no, she was very quick-witted, and I very strongly told her that she's just not allowed to take any more of my podcast hosts. So unfortunately,
nice to be able to have a relaxed conversation. Just turning the tables on you here for a minute. I'll ask the questions. What was it like? Was it different?
It was definitely different. It wasn't totally relaxed in the sense that was the first time she'd obviously spoken since taking up the role. So there were questions that had to be asked, obviously, about everything that had gone on before, about some of the people she'd selected into the team. But you could absolutely see why they took on Eileen as that interim manager, because it was like water off a duck's back. She wasn't flustered by it at all. There's only one point where she got like a little bit annoyed at someone who asked a question, and that's because she felt like they were misrepresenting what she was saying, and she shut it down immediately. I was really impressed, like, just by talking to her, by how she was able to communicate what she wanted to achieve with the team, and where the direction the team was going, and that the past was a past and this was an opportunity for, new cycle, new qualification period, new people in there. Spoke really highly of Emma Byrne, of course, because literally everyone has in the last week, which we already know, but it's nice to see it again. So yeah, I'm hoping for a more peaceful time, although I suppose that all depends on who they decide to get in.
It's never going to happen. You thought we were going to get peace, but there's always something to just bring us back down there. But look, when Eileen was brought in as head of women's football in the FAI, I thought it was a really, really good appointment. Like you say, she's very measured. She's very well educated. She knows women's football, so she can kind of back up what she's saying in those interviews. I'd hate to lose her from that role, because I think she brings so much to it. But I think, like you say, for the interim manager position and what's needed in the squad at the moment, which is that kind of stable person who's able to kind of cope, thick-skinned, can cope with all of the media pressure that's coming, because it is still a massive game, and obviously it's coming off the back of the most media coverage there's ever been around a team, positive and negative. So to have someone like her in place, I think it protects the players a bit at the moment, which is very much needed.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, even the way they did it. So like Eileen was up, but all the other players who were up that day were all players who hadn't been to the World Cup. So it was like, it almost forced everyone to move on after everything that had happened the day before with Diane's comments and how kind of people had so many different opinions about that. You couldn't really ask the likes of, Sam McCarthy or Saoirse Noonan, what are your thoughts? Because it was so easy for them to be like, oh, I wasn't there. I'm just focusing on myself and looking ahead. And I think in some ways, as you were saying, this match tomorrow, as much as it's historic, it's also really important. And I think that's got lost somewhere in the last week or so.
And we have a lot of injuries. This is not going to be an easy game, This is, there's a lot of new faces back in the squad. There's again still been some unrest there in terms of the amount of injuries and stuff. So it's important that we do focus on the football. And not just be like, oh, this is a post-World Cup celebration. We were supposed to have that with the homecoming. This is a Nations League football match and we need to be getting out of this. We need to be winning this group. We need to try and improve our rankings if we are to continue to develop in the way we were prior to the World Cup.
Yeah, and also I think because maybe a lot of people haven't seen all that much of Northern Ireland, especially in the last year or so. I think it's only 2 or 3 games they've had. Their manager, Kenny Shields, who brought them to the Euros, he left in January, and then they only appointed Tanya Ox to be last month. So they've just had a few interim people in there. She's a really, really good and interesting appointment. I thought it was really progressive of Northern Ireland to appoint someone like her, and shows exactly what they have in mind for what they want to achieve. So they're going in tomorrow being like, we want to ruin this party even more than it has probably been ruined over the last couple of weeks. But on the pitch, do they want to ruin our party?
Yeah, of course they do. They're not just there for the occasion as well. And obviously after the Euros, they had a bit of a dip. But the Northern FA, they were very good at putting out their strategic plan a while ago, and I read through it, and I do think that they're going about things in the right way, and they're very structured, and they're bringing the women into that now as well. Mightn't be long before we see an All Nations League. There are some very good teams up there. There's teams who are semi-pro, or at least one team who's semi-pro as well up there. So they're not as far behind as we are. Now, we have a lot more players, I think, playing professionally, and we've always kind of said how much that has improved our team. So we should still be winning this game, but there is an awful lot of pressure on it still. I still fully expect that we should win this game.
Well, because we even said it around the time of the Euros, whenever we were covering Northern Ireland and the games they had in Southampton. Obviously, they played the likes of England, which wasn't easy, but we talked so much about what they were doing with the team and the progression they were having. You had some of the teams this summer in the All Ireland Cup,
got spanked by Glentoran. Absolutely spanked.
Yeah, I was going to ask, I was like, how... because some of those players are the sort of players that will be on the mentioned team tomorrow. How was it going up against them?
Do you know what? I think I was a little bit surprised. Obviously, it was our mid-season break-ish time. We weren't at full strength, but even if we were, I was really struck by how fit they were. They were as fit as a professional team. And I always think when you have that, you give yourself a chance in any game. So they were very fit, very powerful, and had some excellent players. And I think since then, some of those players have been picked up by pro teams. So the pool is smaller, obviously, but I was definitely impressed, and definitely a little bit taken aback. So again, it's just not a game we can take lightly. And I think a lot of those players would put themselves in the shop. They're looking to put themselves in the shop window as much as a lot of our players were earlier in the season. And again, the push is to go professional. They've started it a little bit, and they're going to start getting picked up by more teams abroad as well. I haven't seen the national team enough to kind of comment on where they're at, but similar boat, they're going to be out to impress this new manager. They probably have bought into what she's brought to the team. Whereas we know we have an interim manager. It's refreshing, yes, but what are we buying into at the moment? We don't know. We don't have a set plan. So there's still a lot of uncertainty about what the future holds for our team. But yeah, we still should win.
And you mentioned earlier,
we need to win.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier about the injury list that we have, which is like pretty extensive. I suppose the ones in terms of players who started very regularly at the World Cup are Farrelly, Lil Jon, and Niamh Fahey. They're all not in the group, but there's quite a few other names in there as well. It's kind of interesting because obviously Eileen Gleeson, new manager, new coaching staff, you would kind of expect some shifts and changes anyways in terms of just like getting through the game. But how do you think we're going to line up tomorrow with those injuries and also the fact that Eileen is in there?
I don't know.
I was joking with her that she had to listen to our podcast this morning since she had Emma Byrne, we would give her our side of things.
I do not know. I don't know who we would play fullback. If we were to go to a 4, 3 players you mentioned are 3 of our more technical players. I do worry still. Great that we're bringing in players, young, exciting players. Technical ability wise, I think we're a little bit still at sea. I think that those players are starting to come through from the underage, but we still have to give them time to go through the 17s and 19s and filter them up in that way. I don't know. I think everyone would love to see us go back to a 4-3-3. Just looking at the personnel, I don't know if this is the game to do that big shift in. Because who are you playing? You're putting Avo Mahoney straight back in left back. Izzy Atkinson, who was only just called in because of injury, which again I think was a little bit of a surprise. So our wishes to get Katie further up the pitch might not happen. Now I think Denise will get more freedom. I don't think that Megan Connolly will probably play centre back. I don't think that would be necessary. And then I think it'll be pretty much the same as it was. Caruso up top. She, for me, was the standout player since she's been given her chance.
She's been doing well as well in the NWSL since she moved. And she's been working under Casey Stoney as well, which you can imagine has only helped her improve even more.
Yeah, I mean, that was an incredible move for her. And, you know, it's so great for us to see our players playing at a level like that and know that they can play at a level like that. She's still the best strike option. It's just whether we get to play an actual number 10 off her. I'd love to see that because she's so good at holding up the ball and doing those little pop passes. If we could just get players closer to her, I think it could really be a really good outlet for us if we had, you know, quick players playing off her. Who that will be, I don't know. Usually the team kind of picks itself, I guess.
But that's what makes us interesting.
But if we're asking for changes, it doesn't. So
yeah,
I don't know.
But is that not what's kind of interesting about this? Because as you say, like during the World Cup, apart from like maybe 1 or 2 little tweaks, it was pretty obvious who the starting team would be. But like, this is probably the time we need these sort of things to happen because we'll have like more qualifications coming up and, you know, injuries are going to happen. We're relatively lucky that Heather Payne was kind of only the main one during the World Cup, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, so we do kind of need to work out our options and we need to start doing that sooner rather than later.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to see us play with a proper number 10 instead of the box. And that means it's not too deep lying midfielders so that we can just push up the pitch a little bit more. I say that with trepidation because the pace, I'm wondering about pace at the back, even if we take Katie out of left back, Heather really is the only person with pace. And obviously teams would identify that.
Yeah. For what I remember of Northern Ireland, pace isn't one of the things that they massively have.
We should be winning this game. I think we still should have superior power, technical ability, given the number of players we do have playing professional. But, you know, we're kind of in this new era now, and I think there's an expectation that we'll just play this wild, expansive football, but these things take time. But it's great to see young faces back in. It's great to see Tyler Tolan back in. It's great to see Emily Whelan back in. You know, players who can bring something fresh into the mix as well. This is a fresh start. There is still going to be a period of transition, and we have to accept that. We have to have an eye on the future. So yes, these Nations League games are important in terms of results, but it's equally important to balance that with blooding players who could potentially play in the Euros. In months to come, we'd be hoping Ella Malloy will be back from injury. I think she'd be great to bring back into the fold.
She's back playing, isn't she?
She is back playing.
Yeah.
Just in time for playoffs, which is brilliant. But the likes of her, Erin, Tara, Jamie Thompson, these types of players in the next few months, bringing them into the squad and giving them the experience now is very important. And yeah, there might be a bit of sacrifice in terms of, having to coach these players along and bring them up to the level and give them the time to do that. But it's very important when you look at the age profile of the team that we do this. Particularly if we're going to look at the injury list we have now, Sinead Farley, Rusha, Niamh, the most likely names, all in their 30s as well. At some point, we're hopefully not yet, but in the future, these are names, big boots that we're going to have to fill, and we have to keep an eye on that. I think that's really important.
And also as well, some of the younger names that you mentioned there, like some of the clubs that they're being associated with now over in England, and like you want to make sure that they're coming into the national setup. And when I say committed, I don't mean in the sense that like they're going to go anywhere or anything, but that, they're going in there and being like, yes, this is a good setup. I feel confident going into this. I know my place. I know my role. And then whatever experiences they are getting, whether that's here or somewhere else, those are ones that they're like keen to bring back and integrate into the squad as well.
It's not easy coming into a squad, especially one that's as established as ours is. You have to filter people in, you have to give them time and stuff like that. So it's important, if we think that they're going to be involved in a couple of years, that we start to do it now, because there is an adjustment period, no matter how good you are at underage. It's not just about that. It's having the confidence to go and sit with and play with the likes of Katie and Denise, these big name players, and getting up to the speed that they're at isn't easy. Even if you are being linked with big clubs or potentially playing in England now, they're still a level above, and you want to perform at your top level for your country. Ultimately, yeah, more and more people are going pro, but the feeling I get from the girls is the reason that they go pro is still to play with the Irish team. And I think that that's always a good attitude to have. It means we have players who are fully committed to the team. When you see these players, male players, often high profile male players who don't fancy a game in Liechtenstein, they'll have a mysterious calf injury. I don't see that happening to us, even if all the girls go pro, because like I said, a lot of them are still going pro, not making a huge amount of money, but they're doing it with the view that they want to play for the Irish team. So long may that last. Yeah.
But it's also, as you were saying, like it's a competitive enough atmosphere to get into, especially that starting team. So you kind of need to be putting yourself forward as much as possible and taking every possible opportunity you can get to make sure you break into that squad, because otherwise you are going to get left behind fairly quickly. And I know it's one of the slightly annoying things. I was talking to Rachel Sullivan from Girls on the Ball about this yesterday when she was in Off the Ball, and it's really hard to try and get people excited maybe for some of these group games, like Northern Ireland at the Aviva, bit of a derby, obviously the history behind it, but Hungary, Albania, they're not names, they're not big footballing names that you're going to and you're like, oh, you get to see Alexia Putellas or you get the opportunity to do this. And that's also another really important reason why we need to try and improve our standing to make sure that we are getting exposed to those sort of games, because whatever people think about the time that Vera Pauw was there, that was one of the things I did really agree with her on when she said, we need to be playing as best the opposition as possible, as regularly as possible, to make sure that we are able to compete at that level.
Yeah, these aren't games that are going to retain the people who were part-time supporters, you know what I mean? So it's important that we win the group.
After this week, some of them can go. I don't mind, but some of the comments that were floating around about the team.
100%. See you later, to be honest. Back to Twitter and pretend to support someone else. You know, some of the comments have been just so ridiculous. I wouldn't want to give oxygen to them. You know, you're so tempted to respond to people online, but you're just like, no, that makes
I just had to like put my phone away, and I was like, I'm not looking at it. It's impossible.
Yeah, like anyone who referenced giving up supporting this team over something that was said, you're not a supporter and you don't care about women's football, and you don't know anything about football, and you can pretend you can, and yeah. Bye.
Yeah, the amount of times I saw people referencing them as like a pub team and stuff, and I was like, you do realize that one of our players just got nominated for a Ballon d'Or, and that isn't on the basis of what she is just, well, obviously it's on the basis of the last season, but it's also on the basis of the career she has built. Denise O'Sullivan captaining like North Carolina Courage, respected by literally players from nations across the world. And anyways, I won't get into it now because I'll just get myself annoyed and it's too early for that. So Karen, prediction for tomorrow?
I think we'll win.
Mm-hmm.
I think in the early stages it could be a bit nervy, big crowd, but I want us to get should we be getting 3 goals? I mean,
I've been saying 2-1 to people because I do think there's going to be
it's got to be more than that. I think we're a lot better now than we were the last time we played them. Was that 2018?
Yeah, because I saw a photo of you.
It was my last game.
You were there, like smiling centre stage.
I was. Yeah, I got to meet Michael T. Higgins on my last ever cap. I was absolutely buzzing. I was also a sub that day, so I was like, nah, I'm out of here. But no, I think 3-1. I think there should still be that gap and some. I hope.
I hope there is. I'm just skeptical after the World Cup I know we're playing very, very different opposition
as well. That was a very draining time for people as well, and we hope that there's a bounce, but it could be a hangover. You know.
Yeah.
We just have to. I think it's really important that the crowd get behind them. Again, I was annoyed this week by the negativity, and I think it should be a massive celebration. It's a middle of the day on a Saturday. It's a great time for a game, you know, everyone's family, bring them along. Like it's a great way to spend a couple hours. I think it's going to be,
and it's such just in general Irish sport, like you have that,
I think
and then
Lisa might be doing the national anthem, so that's worth coming for that alone.
There you go. A little bit of inside info there from.
I don't know that that's true. I could be making that up, but anyway.
Westlife
for there, I heard.
Well, I definitely go though. But even like the fact, you know, you can go watch that game. They have the rugby later on, and you can make a whole day of it. Be good crack, and people have fun. If anyone is going, I shall be around the place looking for some fans to interview if we're off the ball. So please do come say hello. It's always delightful talking to people. But Karen, for this morning, thank you very much for not abandoning me. It's a pleasure chatting to you as always. As we said at the start of the podcast, we are now officially in the run into the WSL, so we were back to our usual scheduling, which is very, very fun. So please do tune in. If you have anything you want to get in contact with us, you can get us on Twitter at the COYGIG Pod, and we also post news there. We post interviews that maybe don't make it onto the podcast, so do follow along. The COYGIG Pod on Off the Ball, sponsored by Cadbury, official snack partner to the Republic of Ireland women's national team. We will see you guys all very, very soon.
The COYGIG Pod on Off the Ball, in association with Cadbury, official snack partner of the Republic of Ireland women's national team.